Now laying out its legal argument for killing American citizens overseas without a trial. But what about targeting people on U.S. soil? Can they now kill American citizens inside the country? The head of the FBI, when asked about that on Capitol Hill yesterday, stumbled around on this.
Does that only apply to U.S. citizen that's overseas, or does that apply to U.S. citizen that's here as well?
I'd have to go back. I'm not certain whether that was addressed or not.
So that we have clarity here, he is not certain whether it was addressed, whether our government can kill our own people inside our own country. This really needs to be addressed. We can't just answer this question. No, the government doesn't kill our own people. The question is, can they kill our own citizens inside our own country?
Well, the answer,
this is a question we have to ask.
It's not a question that we should have to ask, and it's not a question that he should have evaded answering. I think he probably knows that the answer is no, but he doesn't want to frustrate his bosses who articulated just 2 days earlier that the answer is yes. Because at a speech on Tuesday at Northwestern University Law School, the Attorney General of the United States manifested extraordinary ignorance of the Constitution of the United States.
Well, you heard what Eric Holder said. He said there is due process, but there is not due juris something or other.
Judicial process.
Not judicial process.
What the Attorney General said, let me make his argument. His argument is that there is a substituted form of due process. That if the president and his advisors carefully consider the danger of a human being and conclude that that human being needs to be stopped before that person causes any more danger, then the president can kill him. That's their argument. There is no case law that stands for that. There is no statute that authorizes it, and it directly defies the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Sounds like a crime against humanity. What's the difference between that and what Bashar al-Assad is doing to his own people? What is the difference?
Nothing. What's the difference between killing somebody, an American with a drone in Yemen, and killing an American with a drone in Peoria? Nothing.
Right.
Same argument that Eric Holder made at the Northwestern Law School on Tuesday about al-Awlaki in Yemen could be made about somebody in Peoria tomorrow.
The following video details contents of Army Document FM 3-39.40 titled Internment and Resettlement Operations. This document has been signed by Joyce E. Morrow, which is the Administrator Assistant of the U.S. Army. This document is 325 pages long and starts on page 38, showing that it applies to U.S. citizens within U.S. territory. On page 38, it clearly states the detainment of citizens of the United States of America within the territory and according to the categories of individuals, primarily DCs, to be housed in IR facilities. On page 146 of this document, it addresses the detainment of U.S. citizens under the Identification of Prisoners section. It states that the first, last name, and middle initial must be put on the first line, and that the prisoner's Social Security number must also be taken. Prisoners are given a registration number. 2 profile pictures are taken from the front, and fingerprints are taken according to AR 190-47. Included in these operations are organizations such as the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, and the United Nations. On page 56, it states the duties of the Psychological Operations Officer, which identifies trained agitators and political leaders within the facility who may try to organize resistance or create disturbances, to develop and execute indoctrination programs to reduce or remove antagonistic attitudes, identifies political activists. On page 281, it goes into even more detail on how these PSYOPs are used to pacify the population and to ensure cooperation. Now on page 238, it gets into the conditions for the use of deadly force in the camps. And some of the justifications for the lethal force include to terminate an active escape attempt. Now that right there should show you that this isn't no peaceful, loving camp that they're sending you to rehabilitate and to get well. If you try to escape, they will use deadly force to terminate you, is how they put it. On page 244, it calls for the use of snipers during riots to, quote, scan the crowds for agitators and political riot leaders and fire lethal rounds if warranted. So they're used to scan these crowds, and if they think that you are a leader causing these riots in this crowd or agitating it, they can kill you. Now on page 260, it shows the basic layout for one of these camps. It depicts a tribunal area, holding areas, interrogation areas, and mortuaries. Each facility is designed to hold around 4,000 prisoners. Multiple layers of barbed wire wrap several of the internal compartments, and they also double wrap the outside of the whole facility, and it is protected by 24 guard watchtowers. On page 261, it depicts a civilian resettlement facility, which are designed to house 8,000 people. These facilities come with double barbed wire fencing around it with 16 guard towers of its own.